Good morning. It's Palm Sunday. Welcome to my channel. My name is Terry Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here every Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, where we talk about the transits, and then I do a reading for each sign, starting with the birthday month, which happens to be Aries. This is my little Lulu. Say hi to the people, girl. Hi. She's very excited because she's sitting at the table where I eat. She's smelling for food. I'm going to kind of give a little time for the room, for people to come into the room. Um, Small Wildflowers will not be with us again today. Hey, Mike, what is that? Kyoto? Welcome. I'm having a little trouble seeing very well. The light is kind of bright in my eyes. It's a weird day here. It's kind of foggy. So the light's kind of funky. Thank you. Blessings back to you. Hi, Pixie Sacred Journey. How are you? Say hi, Lulu. Look up at the camera. Say hi. I swear we are just having a good time. She's such a good girl. The more she's been here 5 months now, and we're doing better than ever. I'm feeling lighter. I think the planets moving even a degree helps. Speaking of the planets, let's talk about those planets. I know these ears are what get me. They're like little, it's like she has curlers. You know, when you take your hair out of curlers, she's so funny. I did a event yesterday. I did a little get together, and she stayed with her foster aunt. And when I got back, she was just so excited to see me, and it just feels so good. She's a very joyous little creature. Okay, are you going to hang out with me while we talk about the transits? I think so. Okay. Hi, Lucy Rose. So again, Small Wildflowers won't be with us. Her son-in-law, not her brother-in-law, her son-in-law has a knee issue, and he's had to go to, I think, emergency. So she's got to watch her grandbabies, which is the good news because that means she's feeling well enough to watch her grandbabies. So let's talk about the transits. You know, it doesn't feel like hi, G-Tech. I'm not seeing very well. I'm going to pull the camera a little closer so I can read. I'm aging. Hey, J-Dog. Oh, there we go. Okay, now I can see a little bit better. Lucy's been having a life, I would bet. I know. Yay for Small Wildflowers. So this week we have Mercury and Mars are still in Pisces. And I think that is kind of, challenging on some level because, Mars has to swim his way through the emotional waters of Pisces and always not Mars's best suit. At the same time, it's always kind of good for Mars to slow down a bit because Mars gets to actually become the hero and transform. And that is really the challenge between the polarities of the signs. Libra, let's just say Libra, overly cooperative, overly accommodating is not really in balance, which is why we see the Aries independent energy in opposition. So here, when we're seeing Mercury and Mars in Pisces and we think about the opposing sign being Virgo, it's really giving us an opportunity to go through the process of using our spiritual tools and awareness in order to start really using our mind and our physical apparatus to co-create. So that's Mars and Mercury. Now, Mercury is coming into a trine with Jupiter. Jupiter's been sitting at 15 degrees, still at 15 degrees of Cancer, and it will finally move to 16 degrees on the 4th of April by the end of the week. I think, as I've been walking personally through this Jupiter transit, while Jupiter is expansive and Jupiter brings in wealth, Jupiter's been expanding the annoying things going on around my home as my 4th house is Cancerian. So I'm looking forward to this transit sort of moving its way along. Okay, we also have Uranus is going to remain still at 28 degrees. This has really been a long shift for Uranus. So being aware that, when it sits at that anaretic degree, which kind of akins back to the Cancerian energy right now, because 28 degrees is the Cancer energy. It's many things, but it's partially the Cancer energy. So I really am kind of thinking that this is a time where we are being tasked to, the trine between Mercury and Jupiter is giving us an opportunity to really look at the contraction in our mind, where we're expansive, where we believe, and where we get caught up in our everyday activities, or even ignoring some things, or self-deception, like we're not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not. All of that is not necessarily true. So that's happening in the background. And then Venus is moving into her rulership of Taurus. And I want to offer this because Venus in Taurus, as I was writing my wee notes, felt very much, because we also have a full moon in Libra this week. And that felt like she was going to use her voice, that her opinion, her standing her ground. I don't even want to say standing up for herself, because it doesn't feel like an aggressive energy. It feels more like an energy of, I got this. I've been around this house a few times and I know how this works. And now I'm ready to use my opinion to support what I want versus maybe the opposite. There's definitely for me a transformation awareness. And as you think about it, or as I think about it, Venus takes, I don't know, about 4, 5, 6 weeks, depending upon the transit, to move through a house. And she's going to come into a sextile with Jupiter while she's in Taurus in the next few weeks. And I think that's going to be very powerful. I want to offer this too, because we're having this full moon at 12 degrees of Libra, and it's forming a T-square to Jupiter. Speaking of Jupiter, again, this is sort of this feeling for me that I'm really having to come into an awareness of how I expand, where sometimes the journey is so foreign that I can't really grab onto the outcome. But I do know that no matter what the circumstances are or what the situation is, we can always kind of grab onto a feeling, because I really think that this is important. And depending upon what's happening in your natal chart, I happen to have Jupiter hovering over my IC. So as it goes into, or as this full moon in Libra, which sits in the house of my sun, not really conjunct any of my personal planets, but it's going to put the moon's energy, the moon's energy is in Libra. The sun's energy is exalted in Aries. The 12th degree is not only the Piscean degree. So how will I co-create? How will I transcend? Where have I been self-deceptive, or I didn't believe I was good enough? I didn't believe opportunities were coming. Whatever the case, whatever your I'm not is now being illuminated so that it can be an I am now. I may not have been then, but I am now. And that T-square to me brings a little bit of push-pull between the sun, how I illuminate. Remember, the sun being exalted in Aries makes me feel like the sun is a little bit more of the influencer, where the moon in Libra is really striving for the balance. And Jupiter in the middle, creating the T-square, is like, well, where are your beliefs? Where are you clipping your own expansion? Where are you unwilling to move into an adventure because there are certain parts of it that you're just unsure of? And the only way to actually achieve anything is to walk into a territory where we're unsure. Lulu's in my lap right now, totally going to sleep. It's the most cozy thing. I have to show you. I have to, because I want to offer this. I was sitting here yesterday waiting for Lulu's babysitter to come. And for the first time in a very, very long time, it's been about a year since the real, what started hitting the fan for me. It was in March when the construction guy came and demoed my place and never put it back. I had to live through the disruption in April. End of May, I got the new construction guy in. And while he did the work to make the home look better, there was still issues. And I just could not find my true north. I couldn't move away from what wasn't fair. I couldn't move away from what was making me mad. I couldn't move past it, and it pissed me off because I would look at what I, paid for, look at the paint, look at the floors, and I wanted to feel the joy, but I didn't. And now here it is a year later, and I'm actually able to move more succinctly into that joy. And every time I want to be incensed or angry about what's unfair, my Libra sun, Spirit's like, turn your head, because the world right now is only going to become more unfair. There's only going to be more imbalance. It's part of the healing process for the earth plane. So I want to offer this because as this illumination comes in this week through this full moon, and I don't necessarily think a full moon, I'm kind of weird. I kind of turn everything upside down. The new moon feels harder to me. It's supposed to be a new beginning, but it's in the darkest phase of the moon when I'm the most vulnerable. When I'm in the full moon, I can see where I'm going. I feel like the light is clearer, the path is clearer. So I sort of turn that upside down. So I think that this full moon this week, while it makes aspects to Jupiter, is really the sun wanting to expand and be more adventurous and standing in its exaltation, in its hero energy of Aries. And then the tension comes from the moon, where the moon is like, I want to connect with someone else. I want to, do this. And unfortunately, sometimes when we do this, the scales of justice get out of balance. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Welcome, Memory of the Sky. DJ, I'm so sorry to hear you had a passing. I hope that it wasn't anything tragic, like someone came in the store and did something nefarious to him. Welcome, Natalia. Good to see you in the room. I want to tell you there's a lot of souls are leaving in various ways for various reasons, and most of them are layered. I had more deaths in the last year from January 2025 all the way through till my neighbor who crossed himself over in February. I also inherited a piece of his furniture this last week. My neighbor had Crohn's disease and he passed away. Oh my gosh, DJ, my neighbor on the eclipse on February 17th came home after a 3-week stint in the hospital where he had a flare-up of his Crohn's disease, had twisted his intestine, and he went in the hospital and they tried to fix it. And apparently the procedure and the road ahead was going to be so arduous that he did medical assisted suicide. So interesting to me, that same illness. Eclipses, they bring in those fated events. And I'm sorry to hear that, Memory of the Sky. That was about a month before the eclipse. Oh no. Uranus making aspects to Pluto. Not always, trines aren't always fun. When you're looking at the unexpected and you're looking at Jupiter, Jupiter represents not seeing the details, being so busy seeing the bigger future or the bigger possibilities that you can kind of run right over that. And it's kind of interesting because the more I do astrology, the more I see patterns in people. Like I know people who are a Leo rising, but they've got a stellium in the 9th house, and it makes them think they're very entitled to whatever's happening in their 9th house. That 9th house is an interesting house because it's really kind of the bridge between power, right, Scorpio, and responsibility and leadership. And this is where the ego can get a little overinflated. And it doesn't matter what the sign is there. It's the nature of the 9th house. This is where when I talk about the layers and when they're coagulating more. I swear I had this vision the other day. I was literally in the shower, and every time I'm in the shower, I have I feel like I have conversations with spirit, and so much comes through. And I'm like, I wish I could just somehow sit here in the shower with my clothes on and do a video, because I wish I could share that stream of consciousness that comes through. So anyway, so this week, I think really the big thing is the full moon, and the aspect that it's making to Jupiter, intention, in a place where I'm being tasked to look where I'm either expanding on a wobbly platform of belief, or I'm expanding in some way that is not congruent to long-term happiness. It's like somebody who wants to make money and they think, if I make money, I'll be happy, but really money and health have to come together. Oh, DJ, on the anniversary, close to the anniversary of your mom's passing, everybody, I want you to know, nothing really actually dies. And I was listening to the telepathy tapes this week, and they had an episode about spirits crossing over, and somebody who had lost a child unexpectedly. The child, I think, was 6 or 7 years old, maybe 8, and went swimming in the pool. And you know how you swim and then you touch the light and you go back? Well, the child touched the light and the light was hot and he electrocuted himself. And it's a beautiful episode about signs and how, as the grief lifts, you can start to actually ask for something very specific, and spirit will start to line up the components to deliver. But sometimes it's hard to do that. So I would recommend checking out that YouTube. What do you call YouTube? I guess that YouTube channel. Yes, it cannot die it can only be transformed. I know, I used to say that all the time. In fact, that's how I explained when my grandfather passed away and my niece was, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 years old. I can't really, she was she was 7, because it was 1997 when he passed away. And she got very scared. And I told her that very thing: the energy never dies. The consciousness doesn't die. It just transforms. So, okay. I love that. I love that you saw that, Lucy. I've been asking Mike to give me a sign recently, but I can't decide what I want it to be, because so much of our history together is back in the 70s, and a lot of the components of the 70s don't exist anymore. But thank you for sharing that with me. And also, I just wanted to show you guys, look, I don't know if you can, well, never mind. She's sleeping so nicely on my lap right now. I just want to tell you, I'm so blessed to have this girl. That's awesome, DJ. Awesome. Okay, absolutely. Orbs are real. All right, so you guys ready to start with our Aries? Happy birthday, Aries. And again, I want to remind you all that you early born Aries and Aries in general, any significant planets that you have in the sign of Aries, is really important to remember that it's not just the rising sign. If you are a Cancer rising, a Aquarius moon, but you have a bunch of planets in Aries. Actually, if you're a Cancer sun, that would square you, but it's important to pay attention to the signs that have stelliums. So, all right, let's look and see what your card is this week. Your tarot card is the Lover's card upside down. Now, this is literally a lack of commitment or a lack of choice. Let's see where we're going with this, because your ruling planet Mars is still in Pisces. It's going to be in Pisces, I think, for another week or two. And then it moves into rulership. So, and it will come into rulership with a conjunction to Neptune. So let's see what Spirit wants you to know for this week. All right, our first angel for Aries is the communication angels, Archangel Gabriel. We have victory in the form of Omega. We have Daniel, the angel of partnership and history within partnership. And then finally, we have Rosetta, which is about parenting, but it's also about I kind of think of it as, since I'm out of that age range and most of my audience children are grown, I kind of think of it as your inner child. Hold on, this feels a little sticky. Sorry. Sorry. Do you want to stick your head up and show everybody your little ears? She's such a cuddle bug. Lucky was not a cuddle bug. I always felt like I was torturing him when I was loving on him. He would tolerate it. That's what I should say. He would tolerate it. I'm sure he had a Aquarius moon. I really, with his Aries sun, it just made the most sense. Oops. And then I see the goblin come out because it rubbed up against my ego. All right. Aries, here we go. Oops. Archangel Gabriel and the Wasp. Okay, so this is, the Aries energy is very sharp-tongued. We can't deny that. So apparently Spirit's wanting you to watch your tongue this week. Victory comes through love, through sweetness, through not stating your case, but stating your case knowing there's someone on the other side that's going to receive it. So when you do that, remember about that other person so you can be the most effective. Yep, Daniel, in the angel's advice, there's a new beginning that's rewriting your history, but you're practicing versus being skilled at it just yet. I want to offer this because I think Mars has been going through a huge transformation since Mars was spent 5 months or something in Gemini. Might have even been 7 months. It takes 2 months to go through a sign, but it was just retrograding back and forth. It felt like it was in Gemini for a really long time. And in Gemini, it's how you interact with your team. How do you communicate with your team? How do you create a cohesive team? If you think about the idea that Aries rules the military, so does Capricorn, but Aries rules the military, rules war. So you have to be a good leader. You have to be able to communicate, not just bark orders. So somewhere in your life, that what's on the docket right now is for you to be even more aware of how you're communicating. And that might even be how you're communicating to yourself. Now, Venus, who's been in Aries, is moving. She's at those late degrees now, and she's anxious to get into her voice. When she is in Taurus, she has a beautiful voice. She also has an opinion. So here, I think that's part to pay attention to. My mom used to say, somebody said, you get more bees with honey than you do with vinegar. And there is the abundance card known as the cow. The cow is an asking and receiving energy. So literally what this is saying this week is that if for some reason you're in frustration, if for some reason you're in a cycle of repeated patterns, with Saturn going through Aries, history's coming up. History could be how people perceive you. One of the things I noticed in my life was that no matter how much I grew and evolved and calmed down, my sister was having none of it. She was going to paint me as a angry biatch, and she wasn't going to let me off that, no matter what I did. And she's got a lot of fixed signs, okay? And so within that, in that recognition, I stopped trying to get her to see a new me. Because there's a part of me in that asking and receiving that feels as if, Aries, this is your solar return month. You've got a 14-year stint of having Neptune in your first house, which doesn't necessarily have to, erode and dilute who you are, but rather have you come at your life from a new perspective, a transcendence that Neptune represents. And so as you not, because you want to have good manners, speak nicely to someone else, but you understand that the instrument of your voice is your co-creation. Okay, now true confessions. Yesterday morning, Lucky and I, oh my God, Lulu and I were walking down the street, and we walked by this one man's house. I had to stop because he was pulling his cars out. We're on the highway and he had to wait. So I saw him coming. We walked by. She didn't stop, do any business or anything. And we get about a quarter mile away and he pulls up in his car and he stops. He goes, can I talk to you for a second? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, don't let your dog in my yard to shit again. I go, what? I didn't do that. My dog did not do that. He's like, yeah, I saw you. I'm like, no, you didn't, because it didn't happen. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because no matter, I go, look, I'll take you to the trash can that I just threw the poop bag in. Come walk with me. He wouldn't do that. And I started to get very flustered. And then Spirit brought another older man, we're all old people, walking down the street as this guy drives off, and I flip him off. Okay, I'm sorry, I did it. I was mad. I'm an Aries rising. This other man walks down the street, and he is like the angel of reason. He's like, don't let that guy get up your grill. People around here are always so cranky lately. They're all nitpicky. He's like, don't let him ruin your day. You're good. And I was like, thank you, Spirit. Because there's something about communicating. So if crap comes your way, you don't necessarily. And my neighbor over here tried to taunt me the other day too. She just looked at me and laughed and started waving in this maniacal way. Because your victory doesn't come from loving someone else. It comes from loving yourself. It comes from saying, I don't have my time, energy, or the inclination to deal with your crap anymore. So I'm just going to take my inner child and mosey on down the abundant road. Because I don't think that happiness is going to come to us. I think we have to frickin' choose it. We literally have to say, I don't care if you're actually throwing crap at me. I don't have the time to catch your crap and fix it. I'm just going to dodge it and mosey on. Because I'm pretty sure I am 66 years old, and I can't see very far, especially when lights are blaring in my face. The sun is blaring in my face. I'm really sure that all that guy saw was a woman and a small dog, a small white dog. Because there's tons of them around here. And remember, Aries, you had the Lover's card, choice. Maybe it's not even time to make a choice or a commitment. Okay. One that isn't authentic to you. All right, let's go on to our Taurus, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. If I seem like I'm awkward, that's because I have a dog on my lap. Oh, the 10 of Wands. This is kind of, pardon me. This Taurus energy, I mean, I'm talking to Taurus right now. This is a card of burden. It's a card of doing things the hard way. And I kind of get this feeling when I look at it that Taurus energy gets to be mindful of the history of how they do things. Sometimes Taurus gets used to doing things a certain way. And even though that may not be an evolved version, like I'm just used to always reading the newspaper, I don't want to listen to a podcast and hear the news. There's something about paying attention to burdens. And remember, we've got Uranus moving through your first house. So something is also being awakened, awoke. And I think with Venus moving into your first house this week, I think it might have something to do with an old belief, an opinion. The full moon could illuminate that. Taurus sextiles the Cancer energy where Jupiter is. It's Palm Sunday. Happy Palm Sunday, everybody. Hosanna, Hosanna. All right, Desiree is saying to look deeper into a situation. Chantal is talking about love. Victory is coming from Omega in the angel's advice. And finally, patience. It's a time to observe something. It's a time to not take action. And it may feel like a burden because you may feel like I need to. I want to know that I'm secure. I wonder what the... All right, here we go. The Serpent is here. Oh, thank you, DJ. I really appreciate you. You're so kind every week. Okay, the Serpent is all about shedding a skin, the knowledge and healing. The Earth Fairy is here. You know what? Okay, this is where I'm going. This has nothing to do with anyone else, Taurus. This has to do with everything about you taking care of yourself. Even if you have obligations, it's kind of like, it's not about shirking your responsibilities. It's about knowing when to do what you need to do to get something done and not overdoing it this week. Victory comes from being energy. Yes, maybe it's time to relax a little bit. Maybe it's time to sit down and play a game. The Patience card is being joined by the Protection card. I want to offer this for my Tauruses. I think that this is a really good week for you to be able to look at the habits you have of your responsibility, your obligations, what you're growing, what you're what do I need to do? And do I need to do all of it, or can I just do some of it and then take a little bit more time to give myself a rejuvenation, a recalibration? The patience card and the protection card make me feel like if you back down from something that feels a little burdensome, something that you're potentially that's wearing you out physically. And Venus is not moving into Taurus until the 4th. And so she's going to come into a conjunction with Uranus later this week. And there could be something unexpected that comes into your awareness. And while I say that, Venus also rules money, but I don't think it has to do with money here. I think it has to do with something about how you're feeling, or how you're either wanting to express. You may be annoyed or something, or you may feel like somebody's too much, or a situation is burdensome to you, and you have some kind of responsibility to it. And yet at the same time, if you just don't act on the responsibility, but rather act on, I need to self-care before I can actually take care of you. I think the Earth Fairy is saying with Chantal to love on you because you're the Earth sign. In the angel's advice, your victory comes from your being energy, from just chilling. And both these cards have victory within the verbiage on the face of the card. Lulu's moving her head around. She's putting her little head on the, and I want to offer this too, because when I look at this, I feel like the protection comes because when you go into the patience energy, it's really about noticing the pattern. So when I'm very stressed out by something, and my focus is, I'm so mad that guy did this to me, because that's usually what pulls my focus. Somebody was being unfair, and my Aries Libra combination just goes nuts. And that actually disrupts my life. And then I become a co-contributor to my disruption. So this last few weeks, Spirit has kept pushing me. They kept showing me my big fat Greek wedding, right, in my head, where the man may be the head of the family, but the woman is the neck. Turn your head, turn your head. So they were telling me this disruption is not going to stop. But if you turn your head, that's where you'll find the ease. So there we're going. Your protection comes from you being able to say, okay, it is what it is, but do I need to pay attention to it right now? So y'all live in your individual lives. I'm pretty sure you'll know what that overextension, where it comes from. Let's go on to our Geminis. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. I love that Lulu is such a cuddler. I gotta tell you, it's just such a joyous thing. Okay. Gemini, your card. Ooh, the Temperance card. You know, when I saw this, you know, Gemini rules the twins, Gemini rules two things, and then I saw those two roads. And I thought that this, and Temperance isn't about choices, it's about balance, it's about the flow of things. But I saw there's always going to be choices. And here we see that not only in this particular deck is she got one foot in water and one on land, the foot in water is in her emotional body. It's a moon. So as you pay more, or not more, but as you give credence to your emotional body, some things are, the action can be taken, but the timing isn't particularly correct. For instance, like even with a Taurus reading, if you're feeling burdened or if you're feeling a wobble in your energy, to take action actually undermines you. It's almost better to take a moment and get a more clear, and I think that full moon will bring that into focus this week. Because here, I think that for my Geminis, if you're going to have to make a choice, if there are two paths that you can take, it would be taking one based on your emotional body rather than your mental process of what you can project could potentially happen. But let's see, you know, where we're going. Our first angel for our Geminis is Opal, the angels of you are a child of God. The light worker card is here. The victory card, again, in the angel's advice, Omega. And finally, Isaiah is saying you're being protected while you're going through this process of contemplating, deciding, musing on a new beginning potentially, or on what path do I want to put my focus in? Where do I want to expand? We can't negate the Jupiterian energy here within the temperance dynamic. And that took me right back to the square, the T square to the full moon, which is technically in Gemini's second house of your skills, your voice. So there may have something to do with, again, a tension between what you want, what is best for the collective, and knowing that if you're taking your actions based on, as I fuel myself, I'm better able to support others. And when I say fuel, I mean that in many ways. If I fuel my emotional body, if I fuel my physical body, if I fuel my spiritual body, and I don't, because I think sometimes the Gemini wobble, because if you think about it, the third house rules my cousins, my teammates, my workmates, my community. It's where, as a soul, I first encounter other people that are different than me. It's where I start to go to school. And I see that some people have 2 siblings, some people have no siblings, that you just see how your family is different and how you're different from other people. So there must be something going on that's wanting Gemini to look at the choices and then make the one that is most authentic to your emotional body, to your happiness. There's the focus card that's joining Opal. The Lady of the Lake is here joining the Indriel, the light worker. Do you want to get down, sweetheart? Whoops, do you want to get down now? Yeah, maybe. Okay. Oh, there you go. Can't be easy to sit on my bony lap. Okay. We have the dog joining Omega, and then we have Merlin joining Isaiah. Okay, so the focus, this is what I want to say. When I see the focus card with Opal, it's like Spirit is reminding Gemini, you're a child of God. You're a child of the universe. And as such, what you put out into the universe comes back to you. How you use your mind, how you use your speech. So focus and know that you are being protected, because Indriel is the light worker. And then the Lady of the Lake is this fight between my mind and my heart. And Excalibur sits in the middle holding the sword of truth. And there's a bit of a storm going on. It's not an easy, it's not a slam dunk decision. Now, your victory comes from your sincerity, from what is truly what you want, to be loyal to the love in your heart and what you truly want. And I want to offer it this way, because when I look at this, I feel like small details may not serve Gemini. With the expansive energy of Jupiter, I'm thinking, rather than trying to figure out, well, if I make this much money and I can do this, then I can do that. To me, it's more like, okay, Spirit, I would like enough resources and money to make sure that there's flow. There's always enough, no matter how my tastes grow and change over time. I feel like for Gemini this week, Spirit is telling you that you're a magical creature. And that if you harness your mind into your emotional body, and even if it isn't easy, because what you're saying feels unattainable right now or too fanciful, if you continue to spin down the road, you'll start to see things alchemize, because you're being protected while you're going through a gestation process of seeing that there are 2 choices. The 2 choices are, I can believe I'm a muggle or I can believe I'm magical. Muggles have to follow the rules. They have to go to a job 40 hours a week. They have to, buy drugs so that their body will function, because blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of, with the South Node in Virgo, people could be feeling a lot of funkiness there. So I just feel like for Gemini this week, there are choices. There are choices and there's flow. So if there's a dip, that gives you an opportunity to be even more resolved to put your focus on where you want to go. And I want to offer this too, because the news and all the stuff going on in the outside world is very deflating right now. It feels like whatever direction you look, there is somebody experiencing trauma or some injustice somewhere. So, be mindful of where your attention goes to, because you want to put your attention where there's the least amount of obstacles to your happiness, which is why I don't really watch the news. I do see headlines on Yahoo because you can't really avoid them. But somehow I try not to get too caught up because I can't do anything about it. I can only stay in my vibration. Welcome, Rose Light. It's so good to see you. You're never late. You're right on time. You're here when you're supposed to be here. That's all good. Okay, so we're going on to our Cancers, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. And I really want to say this for my Cancers because the Jupiter transit through your house, and technically we say first house, but now that I'm more of a Placidus fan, we know Jupiter could be going through your 12th house. So Jupiter would have been illuminating a spiritual path and allowing you to travel into new realms of thought, belief, creativity. And then it moves into your first house, wanting to expand you and to capitalize on that. And I suppose if you're early degree Cancer rising, then you've just experienced this mostly through your first house, but you're also experiencing it through your second house when it goes into Leo. And I just think I'm getting pretty excited about this transit because there is a focus on creation. There is a focus on self-sufficiency through that creation. There's a focus on fun and laughter and entertainment. So, all right. Well, this is very apropos for our Cancers. This is the High Priestess. This would very much be anchoring in Jupiter's ability to transcend this earthly plane and travel in realms that feel magical. You know, this is where your guided meditations come in, and you think you're just imagining something, but at the same time, are you? Because you could be imagining this supposed reality. There's also this feeling of harnessing the inner voice. The thing that, like, I'll be honest, the thing that kind of drives me crazy about Cancers is the crab crawl, right? There's a time when they can be very powerful and self-assured, and then some out of nowhere, sometimes there is an insecurity that I don't understand. And I think that comes from when Cancer's too focused on, are you happy? Are you happy? Are you happy? Am I doing a good enough job? Am I being maternal and nurturing enough? Because there's a strong healing energy in the Cancer energy, not just the maternal energy. So I think this is about harnessing the inner goddess and and if you're a man, harnessing the inner God that says, there's more here. I'm connected to a web that's beyond my sight. It only comes through my emotional and intuitive body. Let's see what the spirit has to say. First angel is Francesca. What do you visualize? Negativity is blocking your progress. Then we see in the opportunity, the obstacle, Serena, the angel of abundance. And yet it's all about serenity through the process and keeping yourself open. Then we have patience in the angel's advice, gathering information, knowledge, and synthesizing that knowledge. And finally, Grace and Antoinette is here, which is about compassion. Now, this is interesting because there's this thing that happens somewhere in your 20s where you go from high school and being able to explore life and grow and be curious to suddenly having to be something. And other people determine your productivity and your value through those choices. So when I saw Grace and Antoinette, I thought this was self-compassion for having Francesca, for visualizing the more challenging dynamics. Let's see where we're going. Francesca's being joined by the serpent, shedding a skin, knowledge and healing. There's the dragon, strength and power through cool heads, no fire. Patience card is being joined by the novice. It's skill without practice. It's new tools that have not mastered yet. And then finally, Grace and Antoinette is being joined by the wealth card, which is harmonious wealth. It's not money to me, because money can come and go. Harmonious wealth is the peace of mind that brings in the abundance. It brings in the connections of people. It brings in the actual money into the bank. It brings in whatever I need to feel flow. So I think what's happening as Jupiter transits your first house is you're being tasked, Cancer, to truly embrace that Jupiterian energy, your own expansion, your own wealth, your own connection to your higher power or your source energy, and then allowing yourself to trust that inner voice. Because what we do inadvertently when we're scared, we don't even realize we're doing it, is we will seek out somebody who will be practical or somebody who will be very earthy. And we'll be like, I'm really worried about da 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 da. And they'll be like, oh, you should worry, man. Have you seen the news? Trump is killing the world, or something bad is happening. It doesn't have to be Trump. Don't want to get political. Because serenity and the dragon here comes in faith of God, faith in my own vibration, faith in my alignment. I haven't been doing it for a long time. I'm not really used to it. So, well, I used to go the crab crawl like this. Now I'm only going like this. See? So we're practicing. And then compassion on the journey. Nobody knows how to do this lickety split. Just because you get directions to build that piece of furniture doesn't mean you know what you're doing. You have to go piece by piece, step by step. Okay, onward and upward. We're going into our Leo energy. Okay. Our tarot card for Leo is, the Emperor. This is fine energy. That's a very Aries energy. It's about being the ruler of your own kingdom. When I look at this too, every week the cards, something pops out at me. And here the character has his hands in two different ways. One is on the chair like this, but the one near the cougar, it's open. And it almost makes me feel as if, the cougar is obviously an animal that can be feared, but at the same time, there's something gentle about how this character is opening his hand and the way and the posture of this cat. Large cats, any cats, represent independence, healthy boundaries, and 9 lives. Now, the 2 horses that sit behind this emperor, as he sits on a throne that is adorned with eagles, represent the constant duality of choice. And the habit of the emperor can be to be a little too bossy or a little too fiery or a little too off with their heads. And will I be a benign ruler or will I be a tyrant? That's the Aries energy. Now, I don't think that this is Leo asking themselves, will I be a benign ruler or will I be a tyrant? But maybe you might be asking that of yourself. Will I benignly rule my body, my life, my path? Will I be gentle with myself as I create healthy boundaries? Because I'm a cat. Remember, we're on Leo. We always think it's the lion. Here, there happens to be a cougar, but it's in the same family. So I think something is going on because Jerry Hicks would say when he was alive that when you have a great idea, don't tell anyone. And he didn't say that because he thought people would steal the idea. He told that to people in his seminars because he didn't want other people to poo-poo their ideas, to how are you going to do that? Where's the money going to come from? And start instilling fear and trepidation. So Leo, more than likely, this full moon will illuminate something for you, in this house that trines you, the 5th house, which is your house of, your 5th house of fun and romance and creation, your natural house. And the 1st, the 5th, and the 9th are Dharma houses. They offer reward. Now, reward does not come because we just stick our hand out. Reward comes because apparently we've done the work or we've done the awareness. Exactly. Till you get a little roots in the ground and no one can blow your tree over or yank you out accidentally. And there, how funny is that? Athena is just like, it's safe for you to be lovingly powerful. That clearly is the first card. Then we have Ariel, your connection to spirit. We have Archangel Gabriel, which is really about insecurity and about communicating. So I want to offer this because this kind of plays back to my story. Spirit is saying, if you want to talk to somebody, talk to us. Don't talk to another muggle. And there's Mystique saying to keep charging ahead. So with Leo, we know that Pluto is making an opposition, right? So we can look at that as clearly it's going to be something challenging, but something transformational. Now, when we see that as Uranus moves out of Taurus and into Gemini, the early born Leos that have been walking through this opposition to Pluto will feel Uranus's gift. Something will come, something electric, something amazing that can take you into your future. Maybe it's time to start to prepare for that, because that sextile has to be activated. The hawk is, so Leo, your strength comes from paying attention to the signs and the omens that are coming your way. Looking at things with the focus of an Aries, taking aim at something and being lovingly powerful towards yourself, not towards someone else. I think the Emperor is definitely saying this is an individual job. Then we have the joy card. The more you connect with spirit, with what you want to create and what you want to experience, the more fun you're going to start to have, and the more you'll separate yourself from what's happening to the average human. Archangel Gabriel is being joined by magical Merlin, alchemy, justice, and balance. I really think you have an opportunity to tame the two horses that sit behind this emperor, the two opposing potential paths to go. But yet it's really truly reflected in the open hand to following my path and having the courage of a beast, a prey animal. And then on the other side, there's a mask. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a mask of some kind. And that could be a warrior's, protective gear. But to me, it felt like, we're talking to Leo. Lots of times the performer wears one, persona, and then there's something different behind the scenes. So I think that what we're looking at is this individualization of Leo, keeping things a little bit to yourself, looking to spirit to give you signs and omens you're on the right path, or you are aligned, is better to say, not the right path. You're aligned to the path you want to experience. And Mystique is saying, keep charging ahead, because magic is about to happen through coincidence, through synchronistic events. So I haven't used this example in a long time, I'm not going to preface it. Gwen Stefani had a Pluto square to her sun when Pluto was in Capricorn, and it blew up her marriage. And she hadn't been producing new music. She was raising her children, and she felt kind of like she was, at the end of she was going through a hard time, and her career was kind of flailing. She got a job on The Voice, and she met Blake Shelton. And what was once looking very dim in her future from her small sight, her world opened up in ways that she never would have ever expected, And I believe that they're a lot happier than maybe sometimes the papers would say, or the news media, the scrolling, whatever, the trendings would say. But I think that people get private oftentimes when they want to be happy, and they don't wait for the rest of the world to agree with their happiness. I really think that, because the way that Blake Shelton divorced Miranda Lambert was so fast and furious that I'm pretty sure that if he is not happy, he's not hanging out. And I think he's very happy with her. So anyway, my point was this. It was poop, and then it got better. It got really better. Her dreams came true. I could see her saying on The Voice, all my dreams have come true. Now I want to make your dreams come true. Leo, you have this, you have this path that you're walking right now, where Pluto is disrupting something to clear the nonsense out so that you can move forward into your true rulership of yourself. All right, are we ready for our Virgos? We have the Chariot, another card where two horses are depicted. This time they're magical horses, but they're opposing. The Chariot in some decks is shown holding the reins. In some decks that we see sphinxes representing the dark and the light. But the main theme is that this is a Cancer energy. I cannot ride my chariot into battle or into competition without being aware of my intuitive body and being aware that primarily in the Rider-Waite deck, the Chariot is cement. You can see it, and it blocks the base chakra and the sacral chakra. You don't start to see the Charioteer until you get up to the solar plex chakra, heart chakra. So we're being commanded to come up in this energy to the higher realms of our intuitive body. What has the South Node been doing to Virgo for the last almost year and a half? It's been pulling out all that practicality, all that realism, all that processes that have kept you in a smaller place. Because as the universe expands, and the universe and Pluto moves into Aquarius, we as humans will recognize that our thoughts are part of the co-creative process. And so here, Virgo, the thoughts of have to, should, it's so important that the slave mentality, I have to work. I've said this before. I really believe that Virgo has been sort of slimed, is a nice way to put it, because when we go into that sixth house, remember the first seven houses, the lower hemisphere, you're discovering yourself. You're walking through those signs in those houses to expand, to grow, to become more aware. When you get to the fifth house, this is where you experience joy, pleasure, and you take a risk on yourself. You gamble on yourself. And then humanity, the human structure, has you throw it away when you move into the sixth house. Now go in and be a productive human being. Go into the systems, go into the processes, and leave all that fifth house stuff for the weekend. No. That's topsy-turvy. Virgo is really about taking your fifth house and then applying it to your everyday life and the processes of expanding those creative skills. That's how you are truly of service to another human, which also is representational of your health, because happy humans aren't sick. They don't need to mask. They don't need to indulge in addiction. So I think that this is the push-pull. And remember, there is victory to be had for you, because that's what the chariot represents. It also represents all that emotion, all that Cancerian energy. The stars are normally a canopy for in the Rider-Waite deck. So it's really, that's where the shelter and where the protection comes from. And you can see here that his armor plate has a heart on it. And then right next to it are his shoulder plates, which are the moon. So there you go. Virgo, you're going to have to get out of your head and into your heart. Get out of my head and into my car. Okay, never mind. I went into Billy Ocean. All right, Ray is upside down. Your connection to spirit's topsy-turvy. And that could be that South Node transiting. It's not easy. Trust me, I have it on my Venus and my Pluto. And on Venus, I feel like just getting dressed and looking like a girl is not anything I'm interested in lately. Give me my sweatpants, and I just want to always be comfortable. We have Daniel, the angel of marriage and of history and partnerships. We have Desiree saying conditions aren't favorable, slow down. And then we have Adriana trying to lead you to the answer to your dreams. This could be a little bit about, and this makes sense because Virgo wants to know where they're going, doesn't like living in the dark, doesn't like giving the reins up to somebody else. And if they do, they want to make sure they know what the other person or the other situation is going to do. Spirit is absolutely saying we need to get that Ray card turned back right side. So I'm feeling that connection to my inner voice, my soul's voice. All right, Virgo. Then we have the dog, unconditional love, loyalty, and sincerity. This literally speaks to me that it's time for you to be loyal and sincere to that inner voice that's telling you something that will bring you home. Remember, the chariot rules home, and that home is in the heart, not necessarily a location. Daniel, the angel of marriage, and the Grail Knight. Now, I want to offer this. Daniel talks about bringing in a partner on the mundane level, but it also, on the deeper level, talks about the psychological imprint of what you've experienced. And so here, to me, this is about, here we've got the chariot, the two horses kind of going different directions, a little bit of a fighting for space, fighting to be heard. Now, Spirit's saying you've got to be committed to your connection to your soul's voice. It's time to bow down to what you know about history you've experienced. Because if it did not work or it was not pleasing, then the time is to stop and look for what you love What do I enjoy? I tell you, I do this home design app. Is it called Design Home or Home Design? I think it's called Design Home. And there are times I just stop in the middle of the day and sit down like I have a 10-minute break and I design a room before I go on. I've really this last week started to ask myself, why do I push so hard to be productive? Who am I doing that for? Am I doing that for me? Am I making money? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And I'm really into this sourdough thing, okay? Sourdough is, I have not conquered the beast yet, but I'm on my way. Because my point is, Virgo, something is trying to lead you, not something, your soul and the team that works with you is trying to lead you to a place that's much more balanced. And Adriana is wanting to lead you. Now, this is interesting because this is a relationship card for me. The spider goes into that web and does not come out. And to me, I don't think that this relationship has anything more than, I don't know that it's attached to another human being as much as I believe it's attached to a soul's calling for you. Something that's saying that a chapter is trying to close. And maybe that's the North Node stretching for you. Now, we're looking at Virgo rising, so we can infer that there's seventh house activity. But if indeed we're looking at it in Placidus, then there's something to do with the sixth house. Pisces is then your sixth house. Because I think it has to do with your everyday activities. I think it has to do with your health and how you handle stress. I don't think it has to do with you not being well, but running on a bit of a hamster wheel. And I want to offer this too before I move on to Libra. Christopher Witecki thinks that, or theorizes that Chiron is actually the ruler of Virgo, not Mercury. Now, Mercury's exalted in Virgo, so Mercury definitely has a strong influence there, but I'm kind of buying that theory that Chiron is the natural ruler because Chiron is the healer. Chiron is the warrior, but the peaceful warrior. Chiron can traverse two worlds, meaning the animal kingdom and civilization, and was eventually revered. But in many ways, he was enslaved to people's immediate perception of him. And I think he had to give up that, or at least work on that wound in order to find the healer within him. So I want to offer this, that, physician, heal thyself. As you go down a path that's more authentic to your truth and your happiness and your ease, I want to say more than anything, ease of mind, ease of resources, ease of responsibility, then that will be your greatest service to others. All right, let's go on to our Libras, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Whoops, almost went the wrong way there. Libra, thank you, J-Dog. But that's exactly that. I think that's perfect, DJ, because if you think about it as the alchemist and has to do with discernment, in that discernment, there is a balancing, and that is AKA the healer. So it really is, it is very broad. Small Wildflowers is actually, she's fine, I think, physically. She didn't say she was in any pain, but her son-in-law has apparently a knee issue and it was inflamed, or there's water on the knee, or something's going on with his knee, and he had to go to emergency, and there's a potential of surgery on his knee. So she had to watch her grandchildren, which was good because that means she's got the energy to watch little loud children, the kind that squeal. All right, let's go on to our Libras. Oh, I like this. The World. This card is honestly such a beautiful card. It has a very strong Saturnian energy to it, but that's where we see Saturn reward. Saturn rewards for the journey that the Fool took through the major arcana and the awarenesses that the Fool garnished through those journeys. And some of them were pretty horrific. And I say that because all of a sudden I saw the Devil card, and I saw the Tower, and I saw, the Death card and the transformations. And when I look at the turtles underneath this tree, I feel like that's Gaia, Mother Earth. The sea turtle, is the mother of Earth. So that sits underneath me. Then I see the transformational butterflies. I see the character, looks like a female. and she understands the ways of the world. We see the hummingbirds. There's 3 of them. She knows that when I see that, I almost feel like there's a theory that everybody is the hero, the villain, and the victim in every one of their situations. We all participate a little bit. And then when I see the hummingbird, I think I have understanding. I can extract joy because I understand the elements of how the human structure works. Now, interesting for Libra, because not only is Libra harmony and balance, Libra rules that justice dynamic, right? And so sometimes what is just is a divine disruption or something that feels dark, because in that darkness there is an illumination that is then inspiring or compelling to the human to walk in a new direction. And the thing about Saturn is that Saturn always brings something that sustains, something that, and they can be sustained fears if they're unaddressed, sustained repression if it's unaddressed. But when it's addressed, how am I building my house in my mind? How am I building the structure of my life? Am I allowing fear? Because fear is the emotion, fear, trepidation, unsuredness. When we walk through those moments and we conquer an experience, or we thrive through an experience, that fear becomes the very agent of exhilaration and of feeling powerful. So when we recognize the 2 sides of fear, we can pull the reward of Saturn. I get it. I mean, I'm walking down the street minding my own business, and some old man just decides to stop and accuse me with no evidence or anything to substantiate his claims. I get it. I'm like, Spirit, I can't even walk the dog. I'm trying so hard to stay away from people that I'm not working with, or, because there's so many randoms that are just acting out, I'm like, pick on somebody else. I really think they are losing their minds. And the thing about it too, is this guy could never have seen me and my dog. It has to be a reasonable facsimile, another blonde woman with a light colored dog, because the last thing I'm going to do is let my dog go into some yard behind a gate to take a poop. That is never going to happen, because I don't know what's on the other side of that gate. Maybe they got a big scary dog in the house that would run out. I mean, it's just so lame. Anyway, I digress. All right, Libra, serenity here. Oh, I love this is how it starts. People forget how to be. I don't even know. I don't really even understand. People are very protective of their stuff. It's very me, mine. You are over there. I think that's part of the Pluto transit for the United States. All right, Libra, I'm focusing. All right, we've got Serena, the angel of abundance and serenity, as God is in charge of how that abundance shows up. Athena is about being powerful, but it's safe to be calmly powerful. I don't have to push myself. Chantal is talking about feeling love, but she's in the angel's advice. I feel like this is self-love. And then Shanti is offering a road of peace and tranquility. Oh, DJ, that's kind of sad. Did you correct them? Okay, Libra. Serena is being joined by the Deer card, gentleness and diplomacy. Well, that isn't you in a nutshell. Athena is being joined by the Perception card. Chantal's being joined by the Hawk, omens, signs, and omens. And then the Serpent is joining Shanti. Clearly, for Libra, you've been coming through, I want to offer this. Early born Libras are experiencing Neptune's opposition and Saturn's opposition. Late born Libras or any planets, I'm full of stuff. My south node is being hit by Neptune, and it was Saturn. And then in an opposition to my north node, I've got Chiron in opposition to my Mars and my Sun. I mean, it's all over the place, and sitting on my ascendant. But where I'm going here for my Libras is the world is literally offering you a reward when you sit in diplomacy and gentleness and serenity for what you know, the knowledge that you have gained. And the knowledge is about your power. It is about you lovingly asserting yourself in your own diplomatic way, but still standing your ground. Because when I look at Chantal and the hawk, I think there are signs and omens that spirit is celebrating and recognizing your thought process. The diplomacy card, the deer, is a 22. This feels like I'm coming into cooperation or into connection with trusting God's. Like sometimes when things get disruptive, I think, oh my gosh, maybe God is slowing things down or the universe is slowing things down because, I want to get over there in this time, but if I get over there in 5 minutes later, I might meet someone or I might, encounter something different because what you're learning about is your perception. The challenging part, like I think Libra, Pisces, and Cancer are the three signs that just off the top of my head are so cooperative to other people that they get a little bit lost in the mix. And I think that if they try to assert themselves, sometimes they feel like they will lose the connections or the people. I don't think that's necessarily true. So as you come into a gentleness with yourself, as you see the signs and the omens that spirit is saying, it is okay for you to individualize. It's okay for you to be Libra rising is an Aries 7th house. So your individuality and your braveness and your adventuring spirit in that 7th house brings the balance to the relationship, hence Shanti and the knowledge being implemented. So Saturn is bringing you into a place, and you could be feeling Saturn, depending upon where your rising time degree is, because Saturn is moving through Aries and will for the next 2 years. I think Saturn's at 5 degrees right now. So it's a little bit off of Neptune, but not far. Okay, let's move on to our Scorpios, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Oh, DJ, you know what? I don't know if you guys remember who Doreen Virtue is. She was the angel lady. She's since abandoned her angel people, and she's now a newborn Christian. But when back in, I don't know, the early 2000s, maybe, she was doing seminars at this place called the Learning Light Center. And there was something about her that always bugged me. Like, she was very popular and everybody was like, ooh, rah, rah, her. But there was something like, I felt like she was putting on a show. And she walked by. So she said she was going to do readings for everyone. And so we were in this, like, almost felt like a church, but it's the Learning Light Center. So we were in like pews in two big groups on either side. And she had her white robes on and she's like going like this. She's floating through the room, putting on the show. And then she walks by me and she looks at me and she touches me on the shoulder and she smiles this pathetic, like, and then she floats off. And I literally turned to my friend in my Aries and I go, what the fuck was that? She's not going to give me a reading. She's just going to smile at me and walk away. And I never liked her. I never, ever liked her after that. I even spent thousands of dollars to go through her psychic. That's how I became an angel therapy practitioner. I went through her program. And I felt that was when I knew I was more intuitive than her. I was sitting in a room and I'm like, what the hell am I doing in here? I go, this is my insecurity. I had to pay all this money to trust myself. She's a mess. And she's a Taurus, by the way. She is a Taurus sun. And yeah, she's a showman. That's what I think. I think she's a showman. I think she wants to believe her crap, but I don't think she actually does, which is why I call it crap. All right, here we go. Scorpio, you ready? I'm finally ready. All right, the Magician. Ooh, I love this card. This is the card where you have the magic. As above, so below. So what are you focusing in on? Because you have all the tools you need. They're at your disposal. Thank you, Rose Light. These are her cards too, but this is the only deck I would ever use. And I also rewrote this deck because half of the artwork doesn't make sense to what the verbiage is. So I know. Can you imagine that she would turn on herself and call something demonic that came from her? I think she's nuts. Memory of the sky. I agree with you. I think it's really important to have the exchange of energy somehow, like the money means they're invested. But when you start gouging people, that's something different. I recently had raised my rate because so many people were like, you're not charging enough for an hourly. And they suggested a number. And I tried it on for a couple of months, but it was not comfortable for me. It wasn't crazy expensive, but it was more than I felt comfortable with. And so I lowered it back down to something that I was comfortable with. And when I did that, people started tipping me more. It was so weird because I really believe that everything has to do with that emotional alignment. So to me, what she did was in scarcity. She had to have big houses. She was swimming with spiritual people and she was putting on a show. And she's also, that Taurus energy is a builder as well. I want to grow things. I want to grow things. And I think that what she did is she exhausted her, because what she ended up doing, she wasn't writing books anymore. She was actually getting the people who went in her seminars to give her stories that she would then put in books and write captions around. And if anyone was paying any attention, you could see that she was full of what. And she would just be like, she's literally milking her community for her own abundance. So she had to change community. So she went to God. I'll go from the angels up to the big guy and I'll just discount all the angels. I think she's a POS, okay? Rick Levine, Astrolot. I started on Astrolot's channel. And Rick Levine, I think, is he talks a lot about the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, too. Because it hasn't happened since the year 555 AD. All right, Scorpio, the magician. You have the tools. You have the power. Scorpio is the most intuitive sign of the zodiac, and I will go to my grave saying that. You can give it to Pisces, you can say there's Cancer, but it's not. It's Scorpio. Because even if they don't think they're intuitive, they are psychologically predisposed. So they are intuitive by the warrior's nature. I love Molly McCord as well, and I like Pam Gregory. I also like some Vedic astrologers. I think Joni Patry is good. And then what's his name? Vic DeCaro. Is that his name? He's kind of funny. It took me a little while to like him, but he's not wearing off-the-shoulder things as much as he used to. I don't like when people put on too much of a show for me. I like to feel like they're grounded. My Taurus moon in the first house. All right, our first angel is Vanessa. Will you, Scorpio, make your decisions based on faith or fear? Vanessa, two came out. Serafina and Rochelle came out. So as you make your decisions based on faith or fear, things are starting to shift in your family. And I don't mean the family that you live with. I mean the family of the people in your head. There's a committee up there. Oh, thank you, Keg. Is that? I think, I don't know how to say it. Kekag 28? All of a sudden I got the feeling that I know who you are and you went by a different name. Did you change your handle? Oh, Xana is also here. Sorry, I should have said that. I got a little distracted. All right, Scorpio. Vanessa is being joined by the focus card as I get distracted. Serafina is being joined by the king. Rochelle is being joined by the queen. Oh, wow. And Xana, who's upside down, is being joined by the earth fairy. Xana rules protection. Okay. So this is where I'm going with Scorpio. Couple things I want to say. First of all, within the Shapley, if you listen to Pam Gregory, she did an interview with a gal who works with the Shapley attractor. I found that video beyond fascinating. And it really made sense to me because it focuses in on the 7th, 8th, and 9th house points within it. And that's after you've developed that lower hemisphere. And now you're coming into cooperation with others and starting to be into the upper hemisphere where you're representing transformation and potentials. So then now we're Scorpio. And I believe it's at 2 degrees of Scorpio is the Shapley attractor, where we are, whatever planets are within orb of this, 5 to 12 degrees, closer the orb, tighter the orb, the more powerful it is. This is a place where we're releasing false gods, false ideas, false principles that contain, interrupt, hold down. So now the faith and the fear is not in God. It's in you. Do you believe in yourself? Do you know how powerful you are? And are you willing to use your tools? And these aren't just the tools of the pissed off broodingness of Scorpio, but the intensity and the ability to focus on something. Because now it's time to be the authority of the committee in your head. I know Serafina talks about happy families, but a lot of us aren't living with other people. A lot of us have singular lives, or our children have grown. Here, I'm really, with this magician being choice, being mercurial, having tools, I really think that this is about what's going on up here. Now, Rochelle says the queen wins. The queen of hearts wins. The king rules the mind here. Okay. Now, the earth fairy is interesting to me because if you felt untethered, now that's the other thing. Early born, early degree Scorpios are experiencing the square to Pluto. This is your natural ruler, but there is a tension. There is an underlying tension, not only outside yourself, but within yourself. And when you're a fixed sign, it's not as easy to KK. I do know you, KK. I think I do. Anyway, this to me is being aware of the power of your mind, the power of your intention, the power of your focus. And do I have enough faith and focus in myself to walk away from that which is disruptive, which is actually, I may be right all day long, but am I happy? That's a question I didn't appreciate when I was younger. I wanted both. But what I realized is in order to feel right and to feel happy, I need to flick off some of those gnats. Those gnats are like the guy with the freaking poop. He didn't know what he was talking about. He probably has cataracts and couldn't see. And yet I still am thinking about him a day later. Nah, I don't want to do that anymore. So your protection will come when you ground yourself into your own power. And that is a little bit of the challenge inside of the Scorpio energy, because what happens in Scorpio is that deep psychological imprint makes me vulnerable to sex having power over me, money having power over me, prestige having power over me, even the illusion of physical death having the power over me. When Lucky first died, and this is hard for me to say because it feels very contrary. When Lucky first died, I wanted to go with him. I was like, he was my family, and now he's gone. And I really think Spirit bringing Lulu so quickly after his death was saving my life. I would not have done anything, but I was getting very dark and sour, and that can be very self-destructive while you're here. And Lulu is so loving. She is so protective. She's so connected to me. I literally think Lulu is me and a dog. She's spicy. She's confident, but a little unsure sometimes. She's bark at things that she thinks are dangerous. So to me, I was like, she's Pluto and Saturn's reward. And I felt a little guilty that I'm not mourning Lucky, as I'm not in the toilet as much as I was. So I really think that this is a matter for Scorpio to see your power. And I did get an upgrade, Lucy. I did. But I also see how they have two different purposes in my life. And Lucky's purpose was to get me here. Lulu's now here to reward me for getting here. So for what I want to say for Scorpio is there's a king and a queen in your head. One is going to kind of stoke what has been fair, what is the law, and then the heart will be like, well, maybe it's time to turn away from the law and just follow a more joyous path, which is to turn away from that which has or does piss you off. All right, let's move on. Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, and we're done. I'm trying to keep this broadcast to an hour and a half, but I think it's impossible for me. My mouth just moves and moves and moves constantly. I don't quite understand it all the time, but literally there were, I think, maybe 10 people at this little get together. 3 hours, you think I'd get through 10 people? No, I was there 4 because I talk too much. Or I just have a lot to say when Spirit starts talking and people start gabbing. All right. Are you ready for my Sages? Sag, Sag, Sag. Here you go. There. Oh, the Knight of Wands. This is passion, fire, ready to go. There's a virile, there's an energy of seizing the day. Now, your planet, Jupiter, is going to be in a T square to this full moon. And you know, as I say that, I almost feel like I have to think for a second where Cancer is in your chart. It is your 8th house of transformation, of other people having power over you. Very interesting. Because as Jupiter is going through that, it's giving you an opportunity to expand. But I don't know if that expansion is all in a material way. I feel like it's an interior way. Like somehow you're going through a transformation of how you self-nurture, how you are your own home. I feel like this Knight of Wands is stoking some kind of passion inside of you. Let's see where we're going. Thank you, Pika42. Joni, well, you know, I kind of think Vedic astrology is a little more like that ancient, scary stuff sometimes because they make it sound like law. It also, for me, honestly, Vedic, I haven't really resonated with it because it changes my chart so much that doesn't actually, Placidus really does feel most authentic to how I've lived my life. And when I see my Libra sun in the 6th house and I see my, you know, the Aries, the South Node in the house of invisibility of the warrior that was imprisoned, I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. I get it. And so much of my 7th house is scorpionic, and my Mercury's there, my Neptune's there, my Power of Fortune is there. So I think I'm really pre-wired to help people understand and to be of service to help balance and bring harmony to the psychological underprint that we all carry. Because we can't villainize ourselves for that imprint. It's part of the human experience. It's the contrast that illuminates the path we want to walk versus the path we've been walking. So when we sort of honor that and again, turn our head, move the other way, you know, why am I, this is what I've been asking myself because there's a lot of videos I want to produce. And I started a series of babies born in 2024. I still have yet to do 25 and 26. I really want to do these videos. But I'm in a weird lull right now. I've got Neptune hovering my South Node, and there's a part of me that wants to decompress. I want to make dough. I want to do individual readings. I want to read about America's history. And I don't know why, if on some level, that could all feel like, oh, you're wasting your time. What are you doing? You know, product, get more subscribers, get more viewers. You only have 14 people in the room. I would rather have 14 people and one of those 14 people be the conduit for something and the conduit for something else and that connection than to have thousands of people in this room. Because I really don't care. I mean, what I understand is I cared about the numbers at one point because I was fearful with my Taurus moon in the 1st house that I was aging and there would be no money. But now I feel like that's a ridiculous thing to think, you know, that there will always at some point, somehow it'll all work itself out. And my job is to be the most authentic version of myself. I do believe that you guys, I appreciate the word devotees, but that kind of makes me feel a little funky. I feel like we work together. You guys may not be sitting in front of the camera, but your energy and your contributions to each other in the chat, many of which I don't ever see because I don't have time to read them and I don't go back and read them. I think you guys are as powerful. I'm just the platform for y'all to connect and to bang around these ideas and to share yourselves. It's a community, exactly. It's a tribe. I like to think of it as a tribe. All right. So Sagittarius, gosh, this is why the program goes so long. There's fire this week. So I think Jupiter moving direct and finally moving 51 degree after so long. I swear I feel like it's been a month at the 15th degree, which is my IC opposing my midheaven. Has not been the most fun. Okay, here we go. Our first angel is Maya, the angel of schooling and education. There's Archangel Raphael. There's Rosetta. And there's Desiree. All right. That's rather interesting. If you're a 15-degree Sag rising, you can literally manifest whatever you want. You're literally on the great attractor, and all you have to do is harness, believe, trust, and take inspired action, and things will happen like freaking crazy. It is a really weird fine line here with manifestation, because you can overwork the dough, as they say. You can over focus, you can over affirm, you can over visualize, because there comes a point when you can do that out of not even realize. You're like, I need to do it faster, I need to do more, I need to do more to get it to happen, and that's actually a cog in the wheel. Oh, thank you. I love reading about history. I love listening to history. I'm so fascinated to see how we are repeating the crap that we have been doing as humans forever. It's phenomenal to me, the way that this, I will be frank. I am aghast at the lack of freedom of speech and the villainization of anyone who doesn't agree with you. I don't agree with many people, and some people I don't even appreciate their opinion, but I certainly believe they have the right to their opinion. I believe they have the right to believe whatever they want, whether it serves them or doesn't serve them. And that is my passion as a patriot in this country. So the fact that that is that there's so much villainization of people for feeling and wanting to be free kills me, literally kills me. Sagittarius, Maya is being joined by the focus card. Archangel Raphael is being joined by the novice. Rosetta is being joined by the birth and rebirth card. And Desiree is being joined by the dragon. Well, did that happen on the day of your birth, February 8th? And that was what happened in history? 14 degrees Sagittarius moon. DJ, you are on the great attractor. 221. You're born on 221. Okay, got it. All right, let's look. Sagittarius, this is what I want to say. When I looked at this, the night is very passionate. It's very fiery. It is very much fire sign. But all of a sudden I thought to myself, okay, try not to get ahead of yourself. There's something about the focus card and focusing in on what you know, what you've learned. And when we talk about what we've learned, one of the challenges with Jupiter is it can expand too quickly, miss those fine details, or overlook something and then have to go back and repeat it. Because Archangel Raphael and the novice is literally saying, I think the healing comes from starting to take inspired action versus trying to force something, or to force isn't really the right word for Sagittarius. It almost feels like it gets so idealistic. I get so into what can be that I could lose my fire through the details, and I have to pace myself. There's something about the Rosetta and the in the angel's advice with the birth and rebirth card is the inner child. Now, this is what I want to say. The inner child in the midst of something, let's say, stop and slow down. Jupiter's taking me over. I want to talk too fast and say too many things. Jupiter being so expansive, so theoretical, so into ideologies and what can be, that here I think that there's something about slowing down long enough to hear the inner child. I almost feel like there's something where you think you want something and I want to run towards it and I want to get it, but at the same time, whoa, you're missing a detail about that thing you want that isn't as idealistic or perfect as you're thinking. Because Desiree and the dragon in the final position tells me to slow down. It almost feels like, oh, gosh, I wish I could think of a good metaphor. I feel like, oh, well, I wanted this and I wanted that. And this has this and that, but it doesn't have that. But oh, it's got those two things, so I'll just stay with that. Oh, but I really wanted that. Well, it's all right if I don't. But then I end up needing whatever that thing was that I'm not paying attention to. There's something about don't move too quickly, don't expand too fast. Make sure to focus in on what you know, details, and that's not your fine suit. Your fine suit is to move and to fly with potentials into things that are from spirit. But even within co-creation with spirit, there is an on and off the gas situation. So sometimes maybe we're overrunning the car. That's a terrible analogy. Again, don't overwork the system. Surrender. Maybe even a little bit of playtime will help you display your trust in the journey. That's the way I want to go. Because I literally feel like I have to slow this down a little bit. The night's moving very fast, but the dragon is your power is in allowing yourself to ebb and flow. So you put out an intention, you say to spirit, this is what I want. Then you don't run out going looking for it. You wait. You've invited in inspiration, and then the inspiration will take you into the next action. That was more succinct. Thank you. Okay. La-di-da-di-da. We are going on to our Capricorns, our baby goats that are completely rebirthing themselves and garnishing and harnessing Saturn's reward. Whoops. And your card is the Eight of Swords. Interesting. The Eight of Swords is a card of bad habits. Bad habits where I don't recognize that I'm part of my restriction. When you see the traditional Rider-Waite deck, there is a character, a woman, and she is wrapped in gauze. She's got a very loose blindfold and actually just a few strings of gauze holding her arms, and she's in a wall of swords. And this is literally where you've worried yourself into paralyzation, where there's so many potential opportunities that you don't know which way to go, but nothing looks good right now. Now let's see where we're going with this, because Capricorn, with Pluto now entering your second house, could potentially still be your first house, depending upon the degree of your rising sign. You're still being in a cycle of transformation where you rise into a version of yourself in the future where Saturn co-rules Aquarius. This is where this gets lost so often because we only see the Capricorn Saturn. When Saturn is in its Aquarian energy, it's building for the future. It's expanding in many ways. So here, I think that's, I almost would ask you to look into your charts and see if indeed Pluto is in your first house somewhere, even the early degrees of your second house, where you're rewriting your value and your voice. And there will be people in your life that will want you to stay who they've known you to be. I love the Capricorn mountain. It's such a beautiful view. Honestly, I think Saturn, this is the weird thing about me. Saturn, whenever I do a Saturn video, I get a crazy amount of views. I don't know why, but I'll get into 10,000 views. When I do normal videos, I get hundreds of views, maybe sometimes thousands. It's so weirdly secular. And I think it has a lot to do with how I'm investing in the video when I do it. Because when I do Saturn videos, there's something about it that it resonates very easily to me. And when I'm doing other videos, there's a part of me that goes into this, a different energy. I can't explain it because it's not every video, but I think I'm learning something about my ego and my leadership and the numbers. And that numbers shouldn't matter, actually. Numbers are the opposite of what I'm actually trying to achieve. I'm trying to achieve, my goal is to inspire people into action that's authentic to them, and then have them tell two people and so on until we have a Fabergé commercial. All right. Our first angel is Bridget. Look deeper. Look deeper into whatever your possibilities are right now, and it could be responsibilities. We have Oceana, but she's upside down. Somewhere your emotional body is topsy-turvy. Then we have Mystique. Oh my goodness, Mystique is saying, do not charge ahead. And then we have Francesca. This is literally Capricorn. I want to offer this too because obviously Saturn is in Aries. Aries is squaring the Capricorn energy. But there is complement here. I absolutely believe, because Mars is exalted in Capricorn, that when Saturn comes into Aries, into Mars's home, Saturn is a welcomed and honored guest. May not be exalted there, but welcome nonetheless. Hold on, I need some water. I think for my Capricorns right now, Bridget is saying, look deep. Well, I better pull the other cards. But I'm pretty sure I know where I'm going. Mystique is being followed by the hawk. Look deeper. Look for the signs. Don't go back into old patterns. The wasp is the angry energy. You're somewhere off kilter potentially, or there could be disruptive energies that put you in. I think more than anything, potentially, that Capricorn will come into a situation during this full moon where you realize that in certain areas of your life, you're still defaulting to the structure that has been, the responsibilities that have been, the duties. And I'm not saying you abandon them, but it's more about doing them with intention versus feeling like there's no other possibility. Mystique being upside down is being joined by the forgiveness card. So this isn't about rushing. This is about not charging ahead. This is actually about staying your ground. There we go back to Bridget. We're looking deeper in what I think I told you guys this a couple of weeks ago. I took a lot of time off in 2025 because the crap that was happening in my life. Then I came back and I had I don't care if one person watches a video. I'm just going to do this because I like it. Then I did a video. It got 10,000 views. Another video got 3,000 something. And I started to get caught up again in the numbers. I didn't want to get caught up in the numbers, but I could see myself. I wake up and, in the middle of the night, now let me just see how many people have watched. Are there any likes, any comments? And I would just go look. And then the more I went to look, the more the numbers went down. And this seems to be a common theme with me. It's like I know that I'm looking somehow for validation of my ego. Sorry, because Francesca is upside down. So clearly there's something going on where you're not recognizing you might be triggered into an old pattern of duty, an old pattern of responsibility, an old pattern of, if I don't do it, it won't get done. And so they're not telling you not to do it. They're just saying, be mindful, because when you're mindful, then whatever you're walking through, if indeed it's something about being responsible to another situation, you'll be doing it this time with a different vibration. The eagle here, the hawk here, and even the wasp all have wings, right? The wasp's wings are a little smaller, but these two energies are really kind of speaking to me that the shift that you're walking through is one that is a soul level shift, that Pluto's transit through your first house and into your house of self-worth is potentially a soul-changing dynamic, where in subsequent lifetimes, you won't have to deal with the darker side of Capricorn, but rather the side of Capricorn that builds strong structures and sustainable resources for reward life. Again, all my great loves of my life have been earth signs, Taurus and Capricorn, no Virgos. Although my family, I had Virgo men, my dad and my grandfather. Okay, I don't know why that piece of information was at all relevant, but I said it anyway. All right, we're on to Capricorn. Oh, Aquarius, Pisces. Okay, for a second, I thought I was on my last one. All right, Aquarius. Ooh, the Hierophant. Now, this is a very, very lovely energy. First thing we think of is a bit of religious feeling, a feeling of being connected to a higher power. But here in this deck, we really get a strong Taurian energy. We get a strong energy of manifestation of wealth, and it comes through the connection. It comes through the crown of stars that beams up. When I was first starting my work, and I was just starting to get Yelp reviews. I think Yelp had been around for about 3 years when I started working independently. And I don't really go looking for reviews or things like that. I'm just old school. I just go to a restaurant. It's good, it's bad. I experience it and I leave. Um, but once I started getting Yelp reviews, I started to recognize that, there was ways for the universe to attract people to me. So I put a movie premiere beam above my head, like I was in Hollywood, and I would imagine it swaying back and forth so that people could see it for miles, and it would attract them to me, and then spirit would take care of the resonating, right? We resonated together, because now I'm looking at Aquarius and I'm thinking, not only do you rule space and the stars, but there's also something about your dreams coming through, and in a way that is Taurian, that as you build it, as you grow it, as you tend to it, know that you're protected, the bear, and to stay connected to the stars. Well, thank you, KK. All right. Oh, well, let me grab that little guy. I don't think this was actually, I think this was a shuffle mistake, not a card I should pull. Apparently, this is the card that I want to come out. All right, so Aquarius, you're gonna have to work on your emotional body right now, because you might be feeling a little bit feisty. We have Archangel Uriel working through frustration, anger, unforgiveness. We have Layla upside down, which means we need to spend a little bit of time, or we get to spend a little time in nature, communing with spirit. And I want to offer this too, because Aquarius rules space, rules things that are literally in the atmosphere. Sometimes spending time in the earth is the best way to feel tethered between the two, still being able to reach for the stars while keeping your feet on the ground. We have Ariel indicating that you're not connected to spirit right now, which is probably why the Hierophant was coming up so strong with that connection. And then finally, Caressa, you're at the end of a life cycle. This is the challenging part, because no matter where Pluto goes, Pluto pulls out the psychological shackles that literally tether and chain you to a small experience. And Aquarius by nature, there's that anxiety level, there's that kinetic electric feeling. And I think that often the human will categorize that as anxiety, but to me it feels like, if it feels anxious, then somewhere I'm not in alignment. If spirit is alerting me through my nervous system, then that's that warning, Will Robinson, go back to the ship, danger is ahead. So I wonder here if the anger and the unforgiveness is a frustration, really. Let's see. With the rebirth. There we go. So maybe you're not enjoying so much this new chapter, and you're still trying to unravel yourself from yesteryear. We have the spider joining an upside down Layla. We have forgiveness card joining an upside down Ariel. We have Caressa and the mystery card. So Aquarius, literally, you might be frustrated with a new beginning. You might be frustrated that it's not moving fast enough. You might be frustrated that the road is not easy enough, but you are a co-creator of this, and part of you is not connected to the original vision of why you're doing this transformation, why you're reinventing yourself. The spider is literally, to me, a relationship card. When the fly gets into the web, it is gone. It is nourishment for the spider. This is indicating to me that you're not connected to your soul, or something you need to spend time quieting the mind. The forgiveness card is never about forgiveness. It's a reconciliation. It's where a dark experience, I've extracted the wisdom, then I've come back on the other side and I'm like, okay, I get it. Now I get it. So where you will find that reconciliation will be when you reconnect with your deeper truth. Ariel is upside down. That means you're not open to new spiritual experiences. You're not spending time slowing things down, meditating, going into nature, and setting your intentions. Somewhere you're on the lower end of the vibration and you're feeling the kinetic, nervous energy of it. Because the Caressa says you're at the end of a life cycle, new happiness awaits you, but you have to choose it, the mystery card. So for my Aquarians, and if you have a stellium in Aquarius, that's huge, because Pluto is about to rework whatever those planets are. And you can look at it as, oh, dear God, my mind is going to die, my heart's going to die, everything's going to die. But it's not really true. What Pluto is saying is we don't have to kill you. We just want you to recognize where you are creating your own death. When I think of Scorpio in its most challenging energy, it's where you're married to a really rich person and they use that money against you all the time. I watched The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and there's this new girl on it. Her name is Amanda something. And man, if this girl doesn't like to tell everybody how she, bought the house and how she did this and she spent her money and she's paying for the wedding. And I feel like that's a psychological Scorpio in its lower vibration, trying to control everything. This is what I think is going on somehow. There is literally a something happening where you are being tasked to see that deep psychological imprint, and where your lack of connection to your soul's voice, it can be putting you in frustration. It could be putting you in a situation where you don't see that you're contributing. Like, this girl does not get along with the rest of the group because she's a name dropper, because she's constantly saying the word manifestation. I manifested this, I manifested that. Well, God bless, I do the same thing, but it's obnoxious what she's saying, because she's not really giving, I don't know, it seems very out of balance. So where I'm going with all of this, oh, you know who she is? Is she a Virgo? She might, yeah. And she has a South Node trying to erode her ego. So that's interesting, because this to me is very much about Aquarius surrendering more to the process of because when you get into the Aquarius energy, you can feel very lonely, because you're so busy trying to help the whole damn world that the individual part, the little droplets that make up that ocean, get lost. So I think that this is about recognizing that transformation is difficult. I think that it's about reconnecting to a deeper part of yourself, your soul's voice, your intentions, your spirit, your guides, and then allowing yourself to surrender to the chapter as one closes. This is where the lucky part gets really weird for me, because I never, ever, if you would have told me a year ago Lucky was going to die, I would have broke out into tears. I would have kicked, I would have screamed, I would have done everything to stop it. And I can't tell you how blessed I am that Lulu's here. And I do feel guilty a little bit that I'm so happy that she's here, and that he couldn't be here if she was here. And so she had to go. He had to go so she could come. And that's what I'm kind of talking about. Okay. Right. Okay. Final. Oh, look at this, Pisces. We have the 9 of Pentacles. This is the self-made individual. This person has done the work. They've done the conscious co-creation, and now there's a sense of serenity in the flow of abundance. This big cat with its, it's a black cat, but it has these tiger stripes on it. This character knows where the healthy boundaries are, where to draw the lines. She knows how to focus in on her peace, and that everything around her is meant to support that peace. This is the North Node in Pisces, okay? This is stretching for not, this is where the addiction goes away. This is where the invisibility goes away. This is where the over-empathizing and the overly compassionate to the victim kind of goes away. And there's this infusion of if you think about the 9 of Pentacles, she's done the work, Virgo, the opposite house. So now she can sit and allow for the flow to come. She doesn't have to put in the daily efforts. She is literally enjoying the yard. She doesn't have to be in the house doing the work. Or it's like, I can't go backwards. I have to learn how to go backwards on the camera. All right, let's see where we're going, Pisces. I love all the wisteria around it. And then there's grapes, a lot of abundance, and there's protection here as well. That cat is looking directly into your face while she enjoys her peace. That's the flow. That cat now becomes an energetic. I don't have to maintain it because I'm the owner of this vibration. It becomes your new baseline. Okay. Pisces, Caressa says you're at the end of a life cycle, new happiness awaits you. Serena is upside down. Oceana is straight up. That's kind of interesting. And then we have Bridget. Okay. You know, cheating is really just cheating yourself. I've been on a little exercise stretch, and I'm almost at my 30 days of doing my rebounder. And yesterday I had the party, and I had the lady coming, and I was baking bread, and I didn't get to all my routines. And as I went to bed, I thought, oh, get on your rebounder. And I was so tired, and I did readings all day. So I was like, it's okay to give myself a day off. Just get back on it tomorrow. That's what counts. So that to me is really what the South Node in Virgo is doing, is you don't have to be perfect, just stay the course. Okay, Caressa is being joined by the fear card. So Pisces is coming out of a cycle of fear, a cycle of invisibility, a cycle of being of service to others and not being celebrated. Serena, interesting. The angel of abundance is upside down, and then there's the cow, because Pisces isn't asking and receiving. And this could indicate that you're relying too much on yourself, okay? And not in a bad way. It's kind of like, I really think of like spirit as being an extra arm or an extra leg or an extra part of my physical apparatus that moves me forward. So if I'm not including spirit in all my activities, then there's a part of me that isn't there. And that's what I think this is representing. I think Serena is representing potentially a lack of serenity. We've got the fear card here, so it's still present. And we've got this South Node opposing you in your 7th house, potentially your 6th house. In rare cases, maybe your 8th house, but more than likely something to do with work, something to do with your service to others, something to do with your health and or your relationships. Because Oceana is wanting you to follow that deeper Piscean knowing, okay? Now we have the birth and the rebirth, because I want to offer this. Whatever transformation you're going is bringing you into a more authentic space to capitalize on this 9 of Pentacles. Now, Bridget is wanting you to look deeper. Let's see into what? Into the High Priestess. Okay, this is absolutely a soul's calling. This Caressa, this chapter of that's closing where the angels are comforting you, they're not saying that your life will be fearless. What they're doing is somewhere they're rewriting your power within fear. I mentioned earlier that without fear, the feelings of exhilaration, of accomplishment, of victory are muted. They're not as strong. And so here, now we see that you may not be serene, but this is about asking and receiving. This is about saying to spirit, rekindling that connection, the rebirth of your soul's voice. And as you do that, you'll start to stand more in the High Priestess energy. So it's very natural. You've had Mars in your 1st house right now, not its favorite place. You have Mercury going through Pisces right now, and you've just experienced a very long transit of Saturn and Neptune. And there was very, bringing up a lot of old stuff in order to reframe that old stuff. Sometimes the old stuff becomes the compost for the new stuff, becomes that, poop becomes the manure that feeds the garden. But here, what I think the 9 of Pentacles is saying for Pisces is that it's time to settle in and feel the flow, not worry as much, that you really are closing a chapter on disempowerment, that as, you know, Neptune and Saturn potentially still in your first house of Aries, but more than likely in your second house of skills and resources. So as you begin to know that the conversation is back and forth, thank you, Spirit, for bringing me all the resources I need to move my story forward. And I myself will be mindful of the things that erode that story, hence the cat, right? The cat with healthy boundaries and 9 lives, and not just any cat, not a pussy cat. This is a tiger. And here I'm going to honor the soul's voice that says, you know, when I say to you that I feel bad sometimes that I feel so comfortable with Lulu and she's such a joy, I love them very differently. I love her with way more calm. Lucky I didn't realize I always felt like I was trying to prove myself, that I was worthy of him. That's my shit, not his, okay? And therein lies the conflict, because there's a part of me that thinks to honor his life, I should still be in that compromised energy. But what Spirit would say is to honor his life would be to allow yourself to rise, to know that his chapter closed and this new chapter started, and your joy is truly the greatest reconciliation. Because the high priestess is trying to reach out to you, but not from that place of being overly empathetic. That's the human part of the Pisces. That be nice to others, you know, don't do this, don't do that. Okay, I'll give you one last example and then I'm going to kind of wrap it up. Yesterday, when I went to the event, I had Lulu's foster aunt come and stay. And the guy that, I don't have a car, so the guy that parks next to me tends to kind of creep in a little bit, but there are construction workers here and they parked a truck. And she was boxed in, but she still tried to get into my spot. And she hit the pole. And she didn't just hit the pole, she hit the pole good. The whole side of her car is screwed up. I literally feel bad about it. And when I got home last night and I walked down and looked, I just felt so bad. And there was a part of it that felt like I was responsible. But I'm not. She could have not parked there. She could have called me and said, somebody's blocking the space. Go ask them to move. I mean, there were a lot of other options. So while I have empathy for her and her breaking her car, I'm not going to take too much responsibility for it because I hired her to watch my dog. This is the Pisces thing that I'm talking about. Being able to discern between what is yours and what is someone else's, and not going too far over the line where you end up losing yourself because you've worked very hard to get here. Okay, we did it. We made it. And guess what I get to do all afternoon? Taxes, because my appointment is in a day. And if I don't do my taxes, I won't be prepared and I will not meet the deadline. North Node Leo, you got to risk your heart. You got to risk taxes. I know. Yay. I'm actually a little better off than I thought because I've been kind of doing it. I think I'm on just sort of I'm not at the very top of the journey. I'm sort of at the last third of getting it together. But anyway. All right, everybody. I love you. We will not be here next Sunday because it's Easter Sunday. So we're going to take that day off and enjoy the idea that we live beyond this physical experience. And that at some point in history, there was a man who rose on a day and bear witness to that fact. So have a wonderful Easter. I'm not too much into the bunnies and the Easter eggs, but I am into the idea of honoring the Hosanna, Hazanna of Spirit. So enjoy your week, and I will see you in 2 weeks from today at 11 a.m. Pacific time. I love you all. I'll be older and hopefully wiser, but I will be just as spicy as always. Peace out, everybody. See you later.